It's a Sunday afternoon in southwest London and Will is chilling outside of his house, sipping a sparkling Polish beer and chatting with his housemate about planes. Will was thrilled with an app that tells users the route and model of any passing plane. He tested the app on one passing plane. The plane was Kenya Airways flight KQ100 and had left Nairobi heading to London. Suddenly, he saw an object fall from the sky. At first, he thought it was a cargo falling from the plane, but as the object got nearer, he realized it was a human body. The object fell 300 meters from his house. Will's housemate called the police while Will hopped on his motorbike to the scene. Will and the police arrived at the scene almost at the same time. At the scene, they met John Baldock. The man was frozen in shock. A few meters from him was lying a disfigured human body. The body was beyond recognition. The body even dented a paving slab. The body had plummeted from 3,500 feet. The date was June 30th, 2019. The case would normally be taken by Metropolitan Police Missing Persons Unit, but on the day the call came in, the team was busy. So, DS Paul Graves of the Specialist Crime Unit volunteered. Paul was an experienced senior detective, and in his 3-decade career as a police officer, Graves had worked on stabbings, shootings, kidnappings, and attempted murder. So on paper, he seemed not to be the right person, but actually to be the best person for the case.
I am Jose Mourinho. I've coached the best clubs in the world. I've won the Italian, Portuguese, English, and Spanish championships.
And so, the investigation commenced. It was established that the plane had originally come from Johannesburg to Nairobi and finally to London. On examining the Kenya Airways plane wheel wells, they ascertained that it was just about enough space for a person to crouch and evade detection. Inside the plane's wheel well, the staff found a bag inside with initials MCA written on it. The bag contained some bread, a bottle of Fanta, a bottle of water, a pair of trainers, and some small Kenyan currency. It was established that the bottle of Fanta was found to have been sold by a Kenyan shop, indicating that the man had almost certainly boarded the plane in Kenya and not South Africa. With that lead, Graves took the samples of the man's DNA and copies of his fingerprints and sent them to the Kenyan authorities. The DNA results came back no match. His fingerprints were not on the Kenyan police database. With this lead hitting a dead end, Graves flew to Kenya in September.
We just landed at Jomo Kenyatta.
Graves went through the airport CCTV recordings to see if he could get any clue. CCTV of the departure gate and runway shows that nobody jumped on the plane as it was taking off, and nobody climbed into the carriage while it was at the gate 17. That means the stowaway almost certainly boarded the plane when it was being held at stand 1, where the CCTV footage coverage was less clear. However, there's one downside to this theory. With JKIA having a very tight security, it would have been hard to gain access to the plane before taking off, which took Graves to a second theory. The stowaway was either a ground worker, baggage handler, or a cleaner who works at the airport. Let's see why this theory makes sense. To sacrifice to travel in such a high risk, the stowaway was probably working a low-paid job, low-educated person, and had an access to the parking area of the aircraft. A ground worker, baggage handler, or a cleaner at the airport ticks all the boxes. The theory was debunked by Kenyan airport authorities, insisting that all their employees were present and accounted for. Again, Graves' theory hit a dead end. However, Graves had another possibility. That the stowaway had reached the plane by breaching the outer perimeter of the airfield. Again, airport officials assured Graves that the perimeter had also been secure.
Come on, man. What are we talking about?
When Graves had exhausted all his leads in Kenya, there was only one thing left to do. make his findings available to the media in the hope of reviving the coverage of the story and triggering someone's memory. On his return to UK in October, Graves released a computer-generated picture of the stowaway face. On 12 November, Sky News published the results of an investigation in which they claimed to have solved the puzzle.
I think Paul Manyasi was the stowaway. I cannot know, but
in the video, the host claimed to have gotten a hint from a local taxi driver that there was a cleaner from Colnet Limited, a cleaning company contracted by Kenya Airport Authority, had gone missing at the end of June. The taxi driver claims to have picked the information from a couple of employees. Sky News had a conversation with one of the Colnet employees who claimed Paul Manyasi was a colleague at the airport and had gone missing. The employee told Sky that she was Paul's girlfriend. Paul's mother claimed to recognize some of the things, amongst them his underpants. The family claimed to have not spoken to their son for several years, and they had no idea their son was actually dead. Kenyan journalists Willy Lusige and Hilary Orinde had doubts with the findings. The first red flag is that she has not spoken to him for a number of years, but she was able to identify his underpants. Did he not change his underwear for years? Both men began to dig into Sky investigation, and what they found was astonishing. When Lusige found the family of the man Sky had identified as Paul Manyasi, he knew something was wrong. I expected, because they had been told their family member was dead, that there would be a somber mood, but when I went there, it was just a normal day. The father told Lusige that some white people came to visit the family and gave them $200, that is almost 25,000 Kenya shillings, to give a false story. Their son was actually called Cedric Isaac, and he was in fact alive and locked up in a prison in Nairobi. When Kenyan newspaper Daily Nation spoke to Cedric in prison, he said, "We were watching the news, then my friends, they all started telling me, hey, those are your pictures. Then automatically I saw them. They were mine. I decided to follow up on the story. It was about Paul Manyasi, who is not me." To hammer the final nail on the coffin, there was no record of Paul Manyasi ever having worked at Jomo Kenyatta International Airport. After claiming to have identified the man who fell from the sky, Sky News on 22nd November retracted the article and published an apology. Why a big corporate like Sky News lie remains a mystery. Were they trying to get a heads up over their competitors, or were they being silenced? The prisoner who the family claimed to be their son, there were no DNA testing to ascertain that he was truly their son. As far as I know, it was just by a word of mouth. The family could have been harassed to change their statements, but by who? There are people who feel the Kenyan authority concealed his identity to avoid exposing a serious lapse of security in the airport. And honestly, there are reasons that make this theory probable. When Graves decided to make his findings available to the media, the idea did not go down well with the Kenyan authority. According to the Kenyan journalist Hilary Orinde, there is a general feeling among the police that if the stowaway was shown to be someone who originated from Kenya, the airport security rating would have dropped. On February 4th, 2021, a Turkish airline Airbus A330 freighter landed at
Netherlands.
Above the landing gear was a 16-year-old Kenyan boy. The plane had originated from Jomo Kenyatta International Airport on 3rd February. However, it's not only the Kenyan government that is guilty of that. Governments tend to do that. In July 2013, a 32-year-old man died after stowing away in the wheel well of a British Airways flight from Istanbul to London. In the days after the incident, the deceased family were visited by Turkish police and told not to push more information on how he had access to the plane. They told my uncle not to drag out the situation. They said to drop it. Remember, the plane was originally coming from Johannesburg. According to the pilots, on the flights to Kenya from South Africa, there was a moment after takeoff when they heard the crunch of the wheels retracting. We just looked at each other. There could be a possibility that the crunch they heard was the stowaway. He could have accessed the plane at South Africa. As far as the investigations went, they never checked the Johannesburg airport CCTV, nor did they send the man's fingerprints to South African authority. So it's actually not the Kenyan man who fell from the sky, rather the South African man who fell from the sky. However, this theory fails to explain one thing: where did he get the Kenyan currency? Kenya ended the investigation on the man's identity in 2019 with more questions raised than answers. The identity of the man who fell from the sky on June 30th, 2019 to date remains a mystery.